Hey everyone, my name is Nick and welcome back to the channel. And in today's video we are still continuing with the Thousand Suns in-depth analysis. Today's video we're going to be taking a look at the next demon engine. So I've already covered the Forge Fiend. We're going to take a look at the Heldrake and work out whether this amazing Hell Turkey, back that had its heyday back in what, 6th, 7th edition, then completely lost favour throughout the 8th. Is it now a potential pick for our 9th edition Thousand Suns? Let's go and take a look. So the Heldrake, just like other big units with more than 10 wounds, we have a degrading profile, but it starts off with a move of 20 to 60 inches, a minimum and a maximum distance. So just like every flyer type unit in the game. As a weapon skill and ballistic skill of 3+, a strength of 7, a toughness 7, 12 wounds, 5 attacks, a leadership of 8 and a save of 3+. When it gets bracketed down though, after it's been damaged, between 4 and 6 wounds remaining, it drops down to 20 to 45 inches of movement with a weapon skill and ballistic skill of 4+. And then when it's really heavily battered, 1 to 3 wounds remaining on death's door, 20 to 30 inches, and then a weapon skill and ballistic skill of 5+. The Heldrake comes with a couple of weapon options and a boatload of abilities now that it's returned to a proper aerial combat monster rather than sort of a fast-moving normal vehicle that it was in the previous edition. So it comes equipped with a Hades autocannon and Heldrake claws. Note this is not a heavy Hades autocannon, but there's only one real difference, and that's range. So the regular Hades autocannon is a 36-inch range, heavy 4, strength 8, AP-2, 2 damage weapon. So very similar to the heavy version that we get on the Forge Fiend, only we don't have the range. But then look how fast we can move, it doesn't really need the range. The Heldrake claws then are a melee attack, strength of user, so strength 7, an AP of -2 and a flat damage of 2. However, each time an attack made with this weapon is allocated to an aircraft, that attack has a damage characteristic of 4. So yeah, damage 4 against aircraft is where these things are supposed to be attacking, so it makes a lot of sense. Now we can replace our Hades autocannon with a Bale Flamer, that's a range of 18. This has changed since the last edition. That used to be a regular flamer, so it used to be, you know, D6 shots. It's now an assault 2D3, which means we've got a minimum of 2 and a maximum of 6, rather than 1 to 6 that we had before. A strength of 6, an AP of -2 and 2 damage. And because it's a flamer, it automatically hits the target. As mentioned, it's got a number of abilities. The first one being Explode. So once it's destroyed on a 6, that unit explodes, and units within 6 inches suffer D3 mortal wounds. Nothing too outrageous there as usual. Airborne Predator then. Each time you declare a charge with this model, you can only select aircraft units as the targets of that charge. This model can only be chosen as a target of a charge if the unit making the charge can fly. You can only fight with this model if it is within engagement range of any enemy units that can fly, and this model can only make melee attacks against units that can fly. Enemy units that can only make melee attacks against this model if they can fly. Basically, you need to be able to fly to hit each other. Next up then is Supersonic, which is what most aircraft get in the game. Each time this model makes a normal move, advances or falls back, you first pivot it on the spot up to 90 degrees. This doesn't contribute to how far the model has moved, so you make that static pivot on its base and then move the model straight forwards, and it cannot pivot again after the initial pivot. So you have to be very careful the way you move this model around the board. Fortunately, it's got such a big range of movement, you should be able to keep it on the board without any problems. Next up is Demonic, which is pretty standard for Thousand Suns vehicles and demon engines. Gives it a 5+ invulnerable save on top of its 3+ armor save. Hard to hit, again this forms part of the aircraft rules that we have across multiple codexes. That's each time a ranged attack is made against this model, they are -1 to hit it. Hoverjet. In your command phase, this model can hover. If it does so, then until the start of your next command phase, the move characteristic becomes 20, and it loses the Airborne Predator, Hard to Hit, and Supersonic abilities. This is very similar to, I think, like Valkyries in the Imperial Guard, stuff like that, where you either zoom around super fast or you go into this hover mode where you can use more of the options of the model, but you do sacrifice the anti-shooting abilities that it's got to try and protect itself while it's whizzing around. Infernal regeneration, so like Demon Engines, in your command phase, this model regains a lost wound, which can take it back out of some of those bracketed damage profiles. And then finally, Hunter in the Skies. Each time this model makes an attack against a unit that can fly, add 1 to the attack's hit roll. So +1 to hit against units that fly. So just a couple of things to note there is that Airborne Predator, whilst you're in this supersonic mode, you can only charge aircraft. You can't charge anything else. So units that can fly or anything else like that, so jump pack troops, for example, you can't attack them. You can only attack aircraft. You need to be able to drop into the hoverjet mode in order to really take advantage of any of these other abilities, like Hunter in the Skies, for example. So hoverjet, you don't lose that. You just lose Airborne Predator, hard to hit, and supersonic. So if you want to start, +1 to attack suppressors or something like that, you're going to need to be in that hoverjet mode. The faction keywords then are Chaos, Tzeentch, Heretic Astartes, 1,000 Suns, and it can be in a Great Cult and will therefore gain the Great Cult keyword. Normal keywords: Vehicle, Aircraft, Demon, Demon Engine, Fly, and Heldrake. So the Heldrake is a flyer for when it comes to your force organisation chart. It's not fast attack, it is a flyer. Comes at a power level of 9 if you are playing it with that particular format, or a flat 165 points for regular match play rules. Now that doesn't matter which option of weapon you take, the Bale Flamer or the Hades Autocannon. There's no additional points cost or reduction in points cost depending which weapon you take with that. And the Heldrake claws all come with it as well. So that's where we're at on the points. Now, once again, just like the Forge Fiend that I went through in the previous video, I don't think it makes any difference whatsoever what cult you're going to be running if you're looking at fielding a Heldrake. I think the whole purpose here is that you're building those cults around your rubrics and your scarabs, the mainstay of your army. That's what you're looking to do there. Any of these, these additional units are just there to fulfill a specific purpose, either to replace mortal wound output in the case of the Forge Fiend with its guns, or in this case a very big distraction backfield unit that's going to upset a few people. And I'll go through a couple of reasons why, but I want to talk about what we can do strategically then if the cults don't make any odds. What strats we're going to use on the Heldrake. So the first is Ensorcelled Infusion. For 1 command point, gives us +1 AP on our ranged weapon, so the Bale Flamer becomes a little bit more potent, as does the Hades Autocannon. However, you've got to be 6 inches away from a Psyker to be able to do this. And this unit's probably going to be way up the board out of range of that, so it's unlikely you'll get to pull that off. Biomechanical Mutation for 1 CP gives us that 5+ shrug to mortal wounds, but the big one is Vector Strike for 1 command point. In a normal move, once you fly over an enemy unit, if that enemy unit has 9 or less wounds, on a D6, on a 2+, that unit suffers D3 mortal wounds straight away. If that unit can fly, it automatically suffers a flat 3 mortal wounds instead. I think that is that's a swaying factor for me in Heldrake selection. Is if you take a Heldrake, you are going to be using that every single time you move the model. So don't forget it. And once again, same with the Forge Fiend, Malefic Maelstrom as an Infernal Pact, giving you +1 strength characteristic to that ranged attack. Can benefit the Heldrake. We've got a 24-inch range from the Infernal Master to be able to do that. Probably good on the Bale Flamer, for example. When we get to take that up to strength 7, on the whole though, strength 6 is probably going to be good enough to be able to do a lot of wounds on at least a 3. Taking it to 7 isn't going to make a huge amount of odds. Strength 8, Hades Autocannon again. It's circumstantial whether they're going to use it, but realistically that pact is going to be used elsewhere in your army. But it is there as a piece of utility if you so need it. From a psychic power perspective then, the usual culprits come out again. Glamour of Tzeentch, Weaver of Fates for that -1 to hit and for that 4+ invulnerable save. Nothing else really tickles my fancy here for an option. Perplex again with the Forge Fiend, that made a lot of sense. With the Heldrake, it doesn't, because it's going to be super close. You want him to be get in the face of the enemy, causing problems with this one. Presage, however you want to call it. Not really a big thing here. My personal preference is you're going to be taking the Bale Flamer, therefore you don't need to worry about hitting, because you're going to auto hit. And just comparing back to the Forge Fiend, Empiric Guidance was a good option for adding 6 inches to your range of your weapons, but we don't have a rapid fire weapon in this case, and it's only going to benefit the Hades autocannon here as a heavy weapon. You'd really want that potentially on the Bale Flamer, but that's an assault weapon, so you can't. So again, very limited options on the psychic powers, of which many are going to be going on other units anyway. So you're going to have to rely on the natural abilities of the Heldrake to stay alive, which I think it is perfectly capable of doing. So the big question is, what is it doing in your list? It can't really take objectives. It's good against enemy aircraft. Now that might be quite good fun against some of the Adeptus Mechanicus flying lists that I've seen knocking around. Maybe against heavy Eldar vehicle spam. You don't see a lot of aircraft in many lists these days. It's very, very troops dependent and maybe tank dependent, depending on your faction of choice. So having the ability to rip aircraft out of the skies with the best unit to take out aircraft is a difficult choice. So why is he in your list? For me, this comes down to whether you play Magnus the Red in your army. Now, my personal opinion is Magnus needs to be in your army at 2,000 points. I wouldn't play him below if you are going to take him. I'm not saying as soon as you hit 2,000 points, Magnus is an auto-include. He is not an auto-include in any Thousands Army list, unlike what he used to be before. But if you are wanting to play with Magnus the Red, I think this unit is his perfect army pal. Purely because the old way of slinging Magnus up the board with warp time and everything else is gone, right? So you can forget about that. He can't get that 3+ invulnerable save. Throw him up the board and beat the hell out of everything that's in his path whilst dishing out mortal wounds to everybody. He's far more of a backfield player now, using all of those psychic powers and his range of psychic powers to control that back and midfield board. You're not going to be slinging him up the board anymore. But to stop your enemy really focusing him down, which is what most players will do, which is why a lot of people don't take Magnus, is you need something to give them a thorn in the side from the get-go. And that unit to do that is the Heldrake. Slinging that unit right up the board on turn 1 gives them something seriously, seriously painful to think about in the backfield that they can't ignore if they're going to sit there and try and pick on Magnus. So that, for me, is the only reason to take a Heldrake now, is if you want to play Magnus. If you don't play Magnus, I probably wouldn't take a Heldrake. If you do, then you would take one. That's my personal thoughts on why a Heldrake should be in your list. It's situational, depending if you take the big Magnus himself. So there we go then, folks. So that is my analysis of the Heldrake. Another beautiful model, in my opinion. It is a pain to paint. It is a pain to assemble. And once you've done all that hard work, you really want to use it. But I can only think, as I've said in the video, in that one scenario where if you're going to run Magnus, I think this is a great accompanying unit to those that want to use Magnus in their games. Which means, realistically, you're not going to see him below 2,000 points. I don't think you really want to take Magnus anything less than 2,000 points in a game. And the accompanying Heldrake, I think, is a great unit to try and keep Magnus alive in the backfield. Magnus has had his day. I'm going to cover Magnus in another video, obviously. Magnus is, yeah, he's a bit of a Marmite character at the moment in Thousands of Codex, but I don't really want to go in depth into the reasons why too much, because I want to focus on the Heldrake, but I think the Heldrake goes with a Magnus list. But as always, I want to know what you think in the comment section below. Let me know, are you fielding Heldrakes? Are you fielding them with Magnus or without, and having any good success? I'd love to hear from you in the comment section. But as usual, hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you all on the next video.